sick to my stomach. There are no words.
A shocking new report shows that MS-13 has already infiltrated 22 states, murdering hundreds of Americans.
Under the Obama administration, MS-13 took full advantage, and they're even more violent than ever before.
The protection of these horrible criminals in California is a disgrace. If we ever pulled our ICE out, in 2 months they'd be begging for us to come back.
We stand with the conservative movement. And come to think of it, we always stand for our flag and our national anthem as well.
Well, congratulations. It is Friday. You made it at 6:01 here on the East Coast. Brian has the day off today.
Right.
Pete's filling in, just back from Jerusalem. We want to hear about your trip.
That's right. I was there for 4 days. It was amazing. Unlike Brian, though, I say don't get up and get dressed. Stay asleep. Stay in bed.
Stay in bed as long as you can.
Just leave the TV on so we get credit with Nielsen. Just saying.
Right, exactly.
Kidding about that. That's a joke. Hey, great to have you. A lot going on. The president's going to be making a big speech this morning.
Yeah,
We're all very fascinated to find out what he's going to say.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. His speech follows a series of powerful others from Vice President Pence and other GOP leaders highlighting school safety and immigration.
Griff Jenkins is live once again on this Friday morning. He's across the Potomac in National Harbor, Maryland. So, Griff, what can we expect today?
Listen, this is what they came for. The second time as President Trump will address this crowd, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of tone he strikes, because he's got to bring the fire and brimstone rhetoric, but also strike a national consoling tone as they look forward on gun control. But let me tell you, yesterday it was Vice President Pence who brought the House down, talking about the economy and taxes, and he took a shot at one of this crowd's favorite targets, Nancy Pelosi. Take a listen.
Any leader who says that $1,000 in the pockets of working families is crumbs is out of touch with the American people.
But, I've been talking to a lot of folks. I talked to some students from Hofstra walking around. I said, what's everybody talking about? They said, we're talking about gun control. We're talking about what the president's going to say today and how he's going to secure the children of this nation. And yesterday, Wayne LaPierre, the head of the NRA, breaking his silence, here's what he had to say.
Evil walks among us, and God help us if we don't harden our schools and protect our kids.
To stop a bad guy with a gun, it takes a good guy with a gun.
Now, just to put into perspective, 2 years ago, Donald Trump did not come to speak. Last year, he brought the House down. They were skeptical. Today, he comes back leading what many here in the hallways are saying is a new conservative revolution in the vein of Ronald Reagan. This is an important speech, not just for this conservative base, but across the country as people tune in. And as you see behind me, they got the metal door locked, but I'm hoping to get in there as soon as I can. See you guys.
Get a pry bar? A crowbar?
That's right.
Tire iron?
Pry it open. Thanks,
so the president will be there in a couple.
I'm going to try and get in.
All right, Griff, thank you very much.
Thanks, Griff.
All right, so the president, it will be interesting to see what the president does say about school safety, because he and the NRA are apparently on two different pages, because the president has called for hardening our schools. He's also called to up the age where you can buy one of those guns.
Ban the bump stops.
And expand background checks. And the NRA has staunchly been against raising the age and also background checks. So what's going to happen? Maybe the president will lay his hand out.
He may clarify because, and back to CPAC, Vice President Pence was right to say it's been the most consequential year for conservatives in our lifetime. So many things have gotten done, and we'll see with the president. I'm sure we'll talk more about what he's gotten done. But guns, there's a lot of gray area because the president says there is no wiggle room between him and the NRA. He's talked to him multiple times. Sometimes things are floated early on, like raising the long gun age to 21. Right. What do you actually do with background checks? What does hardening a school mean? Does that mean a guy with a gun outside the front door? Or does it mean, as the president has suggested, that teachers could carry concealed as well in the classroom?
And giving them bonuses if they do that. My sister's a teacher in South Carolina. It's giving teachers the option. You get a bonus. My sister doesn't get paid Gosh, they don't get paid enough.
Yeah, teachers don't get paid enough.
They really don't. And, living paycheck to paycheck, that's what our teachers are doing. This gives them an opportunity, if they feel comfortable concealing and carrying, then they can get a bonus.
After training and back, all of those things.
And that's just one of the ideas that's being floated. Remember, the president's in the listening stage right now. He's taking it all in. Yesterday at a security meeting at the White House, he suggested that our schools should be guarded like banks, which is absolutely true.
Yeah, and then the NRA spokesperson or president, he said, Wayne LaPierre, he said, we should, if we're going to guard our banks, then we should at least guard our children. If we're going to give police officers, if you're going to give politicians police officers to guard them, shouldn't we be guarding our schools? And that brings us to this next topic. We're learning new information this morning. The armed guard that was assigned as a school resource officer for that school down in Florida just before the shooting, he was standing outside and he did nothing except call for backup.
Yeah, the sheriff and the superintendent after the shooting last week in Parkland were asked, hey, there was a guy on campus with a gun. Where was he? And they go, well, we don't know exactly. And so they reviewed the video and they discovered that Deputy Scott Peterson, who had been with the school since, I think, 2008, 2009, something like that. He went to the building, stood outside of it for 4 minutes. Keep in mind, the entire shooting was 6 minutes, while the gunman inside gunned people down. The sheriff yesterday said that Deputy Peterson should have went in, addressed the killer, and killed the killer. He has since, yesterday he was suspended without pay, and then he decided he was going to resign, and then he decided he was going to retire.
Extremely unfortunate, deadly deficit of courage. That's really what it comes down to. He probably never expected this moment to happen. Never. He's outside with a gun. He hears shots fired. He thinks, I'm going to call in for backup. But then what's going through his head in that second minute, in that third minute, and that fourth minute as you're hearing gunshots? Ultimately, if you have an armed person, they have to be prepared for this situation. And the president railed against active shooter drills yesterday. I actually loved that. Why do we scare kids all day long?
Don't call it that.
Don't call it that. But we have to harden and prepare. Teachers or security, be prepared for these moments, because only training prepares you to go toward the shots of gunfire. Right. No human is used to that instinct. And in this case, unfortunately, that did not happen.
And no crazy person with a gun is going to go into a hard targeted area. They're going to go into a soft area where they know guns are not allowed, a gun-free zone. The president said that defense is important, but so is offense. Listen.
Unless you're going to have offensive capability, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. I want to end the problem. I don't want to have it where this happens again. And unless we're going to have an offensive capability, it's going to happen again and again and again, and it's going to be the same old story. We have to harden our schools, not soften them up. A gun-free zone to a killer or somebody that wants to be a killer, that's like going in for the ice cream. That's like, here I am, take me. We have to get smart on gun-free zones. When they see it says this is a gun-free zone, that means that nobody has a gun except them. Nobody's going to be shooting bullets in the other direction.
That is such a good point. We need offensive capability, the president says, and he makes a great point. Keep in mind, if a bad guy with a gun knows nobody inside a school has got a gun, he's just going to walk in there, and that's a gun-free zone, and that's just a terrible situation. The president is suggesting we need guns inside the school. Is it teachers? Is it Wayne LaPierre yesterday was at an event in Oxon Hill, Maryland. He's the head of the NRA. He suggested that schools should hire armed guards. And how do you ever put a price? People go, oh, that's going to be expensive. Can you really put a price on school safety?
Well, didn't this school do that? Didn't they have an armed guard there?
They did.
Yeah, that's true. What I love about this president, he says we can't, he said in the same meeting, you can't live in a utopian world where you think these things solve themselves, but you also don't want to turn your schools into prisons either. Right. So hardening a target can mean the guy with the gun that you don't see, but in the back of your mind, you know it's not a gun-free zone.
Right.
And ultimately, then you think twice about doing it in the first place.
And at the White House, Meadow, who lost her life, her dad said the first school shooting should have been the last school shooting. We should have fixed this. Rush Limbaugh said yesterday he's confident the president will.
This is going to get fixed, like taxes got fixed. The military is in the process of being rebuilt. That's going to get fixed. We are going to fix things to do with Obamacare. You may not like the way Donald Trump talks and speaks. You may not like the fact that Donald Trump tweets, and you may not like the way Donald Trump walks, and you may not like this or that about Donald Trump and his behaviorisms and his manner and so forth. But if you ignore that and take a look at what Donald Trump, the president, is accomplishing and what he's doing, when he was on the campaign trail, he said, we're going to make America great again. And as often, he said, we're going to make America safe again. It was in context largely to do with illegal immigration. But they're going to fix this.
And you know what? He could be right, because this time we've sat on the couch for many school shootings, sadly. But this time, things just seem different.
That's right. You have a commander-in-chief standing up, willing to speak blunt truth. I mean, he in that meeting, he was listening, but he's also saying, that's not a good idea. Right. That's fantasy. That's a bad idea. Let's have an honest conversation. You got to have offensive capability, too. I think that strikes a lot of common-sense people exactly where they live at. Like Wayne LaPierre said, a good guy with a gun is the only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun. And unfortunately, we could have used a few more good guys on that.
The wild card, though, is this is an election year. And do politicians have the political strength to do something important? Whatever that is, stay tuned.
We'll see. All right, let's hand it over to Jillian, who has some headlines for us. Good morning.
That's right. Good Friday morning to you guys, too, at home as well. Let's get you caught up on some of your other news of the day, starting with this. A Fox News alert, Alabama forced to postpone the execution of a killer dying of cancer who claimed his veins were too damaged for lethal injection. Medical staff not able to prepare Doyle Lee Ham before his death warrant expired at midnight. The Supreme Court giving the green light for the execution 3 hours after initially delaying it to consider his request. Ham was convicted of killing a motel clerk in 1987. And in Florida, an inmate who raped and killed a college student yelling murderers while being put to death by lethal injection. Eric Branch screaming and thrashing on a gurney before falling silent. Today, the president is expected to announce the largest sanctions package yet against North Korea. According to Reuters, he'll discuss the plans during his CPAC speech, putting pressure on the rogue regime over their nuclear missile program. We're awaiting that announcement as the president's daughter and advisor, Ivanka Trump, lands overnight in South Korea. She's leading the American delegation at the Olympics closing ceremony. The body of Billy Graham will lie in honor at the U.S. Capitol for 2 days next week, a recognition given to only 33 Americans. 11 were presidents. He'll be the first civilian honored this way since Rosa Parks in 2005. Graham will then be buried in Charlotte, North Carolina, next to his wife in this simple plywood casket. It was built by Louisiana State Penitentiary inmates back in 2006 at the request of his son. Let's look at your headlines, guys.
Wow.
Send it back to you.
Wow, built by the inmates.
Yep.
Huh.
An amazing man.
Franklin Graham's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour to talk about his dad's legacy.
Incredible legacy.
Jillian, thank you so much.
Thank you, Jillian.
A savage street gang, the members mostly illegal, and now we know just how much of a threat they are to you and your family. Our next guest looked at the numbers.
Plus, she wants to be the next member of Congress. Her campaign strategy in a heavy military area, attack her veteran opponent as a, quote, crusty old Marine.
Sarah,
Probably not the smartest
Sarah.
strategy.
Oh, Sarah, yes.
You might take something for your heart.
Shocking new numbers by the Center for Immigration Studies reveal the rising threat of the MS-13 gangs in the United States. According to the report, 207 murders in those red 22 states on your TV screen have been tied to the brutal gang since 2012. The gang exploding during President Obama's open border policies. If we can't keep our border secure, how are we supposed to keep America safe? People are wondering. Joining us right now is the Director of Policy Studies at the Center for Immigration Studies, Jessica Vaughn. Jessica, good morning to you. She joins us from Burlington, Vermont. This gang really burst into the American consciousness during the Obama years because of why?
Well, yes, the gang had been here before, but definitely had a rebound during the Obama years because, first of all, Immigration enforcement declined in the interior of the country deliberately under the Obama administration. They put restrictions on ICE officers on who they could arrest. And also during this time, there was this influx of illegal arrivals from Central America, mostly teenagers, but also some families with kids who benefited from the catch and release policies that the Obama administration had in place. And they were resettled in places all over the country, which happened to be those very same places where MS-13 has seen. And the gang knew about the lenient policies and was deliberately taking advantage of them to build its ranks here. And they've been on a horrific crime spree ever since.
No kidding. We've got some facts. 207 murders have been tied to MS-13 since 2012. 500 MS-13 members charged for major crimes since 2012 as well. And I understand that since January of 2016, there have been 17 people killed by MS-13. But here's the thing. It's hard to deport a lot of these people, Jessica, because they are in sanctuary areas.
That is a problem. We found that about half of the cases we looked at took place in sanctuary jurisdictions. And these places are a magnet for illegal settlement, and especially for transnational criminal organizations, because they know that police are forced to look the other way at their immigration status. They can't work with ICE. So that's a great deal for them. It gives them sanctuary.
You've got to like the proposal by Lee Zeldin, a congressman from the great state of New York. He's introduced protecting our communities from gang violence. It would revoke the citizenship of people who acquired citizenship and were involved in a gang like MS-13. Does this bill have a chance to make it to the president's desk?
I think it might, because the House is going to hopefully be moving on some good immigration legislation, the Goodlatte bill, Securing America's Future Act. And I think it's important to include this provision to denaturalize gang members. We don't want them being citizens if they benefit from an amnesty or marry an American citizen. It's a good tool for immigration to have, and there may be a way to do that.
Let's see what happens. Jessica Vaughn, thank you very much for joining us today from Vermont.
Thank you, Steve.
You bet. All right, coming up, terror tunnels built underground designed to kill innocent Israelis in Gaza. Our very own Pete Hegseth went inside. There he is. That report next. Well, the Middle East century-long battle continued with rocket fire just last week. This time, a rocket from the Hamas-controlled Gaza Strip was launched into southern Israel.
And our own Pete Hegseth went to the area to see just what the Israeli Defense Force deals with on a daily basis as they're fighting to keep our country safe from terrorism.
That's right, guys. I just got back from a 4-day tour of Israel and Jerusalem. It was sponsored by the National Council of Young Israel and its vice president, my friend Joe Frager. Now, while I was there, I was able to spend some time with the Israeli Defense Forces as well. They're active in the north with Iran and Syria and everything going on there. But down south, you've got Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood-backed terrorists, which control an area there, still trying to terrorize the Israeli people. We went inside those terror tunnels. Take a look. So here we are, just roughly 700 meters from the Gaza border, inside a tunnel.
It's not just a tunnel, it's a terror tunnel. Hamas takes a lot part of its budget to build this kind of structure and to build a military force.
Money they could be using for their people, for schools and hospitals and otherwise, are going into something like this.
Yes. The only purpose for us to do massive killing inside Israel and a surprise time.
And so every day, it's part of your job to find more terror tunnels.
We have a good technology, but in the end, you need to discover less from 1 meter. This is what you need to discover, 15 or 20 meters inside the ground. From October to January, we found just in the last 3 months, 3 tunnels.
You're finding them right now as Hamas continues to dig under the Gaza Strip into the Israeli population. I want to get a sense of what it's like to fight in a tunnel like this, because in the infantry, you're usually outside in different conflicts, you're underground, but this is a whole nother level.
It's a physical, psychological challenge to fight inside tunnels like that.
I'm cramping up and I'm sore already, and we've been in here for, 2 minutes? Just imagine the difficulty of fighting in a tunnel like this, but also the ideological dedication of a radical Islamist enemy that's willing to spend months and months and months and months and months underground, picking away at the soil, putting in steel, putting in lights, pumping in air, just so that they can kill innocent civilians.
They use their own civilian population as a shield 4 military targets. This is the double crime. This is one crime. The second crime, they all the time shoot and want to kill a civilian population of Israel. And we have conscious that we do the best to save our life and their life to achieve the military goals of the war.
Ultimately, when it comes down to it, what's the difference between the way, the Israeli Defense Forces fight and the radical Islamist enemies that you face?
In the end, we come here to protect our civilian, to protect our way of life.
We are in the town of Sderot, just a stone's throw away from the Gaza Strip, protected by an Iron Dome battery. You've got civilian population, you've got privately owned farms, kibbutzes here, and then you've got a massive population controlled by a terror organization.
Absolutely.
Seeking to rain terror on this group. That's your job, is to make sure they don't do that.
Exactly. That's our job, that's our challenge, that's why we're here.
We are the only system that can protect them, okay? And no other system can do what we do.
Our main mission is to intercept rockets that are launched on a daily basis towards Israel. It could happen right now, it could happen in an hour, it could happen tomorrow. It happened just yesterday.
You were the person in charge of looking at the screen and making the determination of whether to shoot. How long does that take to make that decision?
It takes to make the decision something like a second or 2 seconds.
A second or two? What's the feelings that you have?
I think that in the first second, I didn't believe that it's real. It was an exceptional incident.
This is not training. This is not practice.
Not training, yes.
This is the protection of your people at the very moment. What does it mean for you to look at a city like that and realize your responsibility is to protect them?
Well, imagine having a responsibility for the lives of almost 500,000 people. And if you don't react quickly enough in seconds, then you might hear in the news that a house was hit, an army base was hit, you have a soldier killed, a mother that just, lost her child.
Wow, she is one of the last lines of defense.
Yeah, upward of 3 seconds to make a decision about whether to shoot down a missile aimed at civilians in Israel. This happens every single day. We take it for granted. The trip was amazing. I also got to go to Jerusalem, see the Temple Mount, which is still very much under dispute. In fact, 2 congressmen were detained on top of the Muslim side of the Temple Mount just yesterday, just for merely walking up there and grabbing up an olive branch. So the epicenter of religion, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, it was an amazing trip. We're going to do even more reporting.
Sure.
Yeah, very much so.
Great report.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, well, a little girl almost snatched off the street, but a hero stepped in just in time. The incredible story about a mother's instinct is next.
And the president called her insecure. Now Oprah is firing back.
I don't like giving negativity power, so I just thought, what?
Diamond and Silk have a message for her next.
Morning, ladies.
When leftists in America picked up on the PC movement, they insisted that their goal actually wasn't to silence. It was instead to open up a new vista of viewpoints. Because here's the thing, America was so racist, so sexist, so bigoted, so homophobic, that alternative viewpoints couldn't be expressed in public. Basic truth went out the window in favor of leftist viewpoints. Victim groups replaced actual victims. Here is the big secret to conservative success in 2016 and beyond. The era of political correctness is over. Political correctness is dying a slow, painful, bloody, agonizing death, and all I can say is hell yeah.
All right, let's bring in Diamond and Silk social media stars and Trump supporters. Good morning to you, ladies.
Good morning.
Good morning. So your story is you both grew up in households of Democrats, and you now are Republicans. We saw you on the campaign trail supporting this president and this administration. So how did you decide to become a Republican, and when did you know that you needed to run from that PC culture?
When I saw it, when we first saw the PC culture up under the Obama administration, we didn't like it. We saw how people were sugarcoating things. Too much sugar make you sick. That's right. So it was time to tell the naked, nasty, low-down, gutter-written truth. And even though the truth may make you feel queasy or uneasy, but that was what was going to set everyone free. And that was part of the reason why we voted Republican. this time, because we got tired of that right there.
And we found that political correctness is scripted. It's all rehearsed. It's the same old, and there's no solution to it.
Well, ladies, do you agree with Ben Shapiro, who was at CPAC yesterday, who said the era of PC political correctness is over?
I do agree with that.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Listen, you can flush it down or don't give it back to the Obama administration and let them collude on that.
That's right.
The deal is that we have to start being truthful in this country and just tell it like it is, so that we can solve problems and we can fix things and move our country forward. So yes, I agree with.
Call it how we see it.
Well, Diamond Silk, we have the Oprah responded, one of the most famous women in the world responded to arguably the most famous man in the world yesterday. Here's what President Trump had tweeted about Oprah when it was talked about whether she would run for president. He tweeted, "Just watched a very insecure," that's the key word, Oprah Winfrey, who at one point I knew very well, interview a panel of people on 60 Minutes. The questions were biased and slanted, the facts incorrect. Hope Oprah runs so she can be exposed and defeated just like all the others." Well, Oprah was asked about that, and here is what she said. Listen.
I woke up and I just thought, yeah. I don't like giving negativity power. So I just thought, what?
All right, guys, arms up emoji, give negativity no power. What do you say to that?
Well, you know, Oprah is just getting back what she dished out.
That's right.
Oprah, she knows Donald Trump. And for her to take and do a round table on 60 Minutes. She didn't do this up under the Obama administration. When Obama sent billions of dollars to Iran, why didn't she have a round table about that? It's time for Oprah to mind her own business on her own network.
That's right.
That's what she needs to do. And keep our president's name out of her mouth if she don't have anything good to say about him.
And we also understand, Oprah, about the law of attraction.
That's
so
right.
What you dish out is what you get back. She set a whole platform full of negativity, and that's why she got it back. So please, she needs to be positive about our president, not negative.
Do you think she should run? Should she run for president?
No, she should go run for president of Hollywood and fix Hollywood. Have a round table for all of those perverts that she supported in Hollywood. But leave this president alone.
Well, it does sound like one of the other things she told Ellen during that taping was that apparently when Oprah first reviewed the 60 Minutes roundtable before it ran, she said, hey, wait a minute, I remember something else. She said that it appeared they only put the Democratic point of view in, the 60 Minutes producers. So they asked, she asked them to include the other side so that it would be a little more balanced. It's just a little more of that. Meanwhile, ladies, tell us about your Chit Chat tour.
Oh, God, so we kicked the Chit Chat tour off in Jacksonville, Florida. We had a wonderful time, just chit-chatting, even talking about, you know, guns and security in our schools and how we can make things better. We're headed on to Dallas, Texas on March the 8th. For the second city tour, and it's going to be fabulous. It's going to be great, and we're having a good time doing the grassroots work, talking to people. You can get your tickets at diamondandsilk.com.
Ladies, and we sent Rachel Campos Duffy behind the scenes of the tour. We got a quick clip of it. Watch.
We saw then Donald Trump, who was an entrepreneur, a businessman. I'm like, wow, that's what we need. That kind of thing just motivated us to now let's negotiate. No, maybe we can do this here. Maybe we can take this here and capitalize a little bit on this. There's nothing wrong with capitalism. I am not for globalism or socialism. I love capitalism. I love for people to come up, take an opportunity, and run with it.
It's going to be fascinating. The full package running on Sunday for Fox and Friends Weekend. Check it out. There's a lot more behind the scenes.
Great. Rachel will be anchoring this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you would like to know where they're heading in the Chit Chat tour, go to diamondandsilk.com. Ladies, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Have a great weekend.
So entertaining. I love those ladies.
But it's entertaining, but it's also, they get right to the heart of issues.
I know.
In a non-politically correct way. It's beautiful.
All
Well
right,
done, ladies.
Meanwhile, 21 minutes before the top of the hour, and Jillian joins us right now here in Studio F.
That's right. Good Friday morning to you guys. Let's begin with this story that we've been following. A heartbroken teen, and a couple of them actually, remembering their beloved assistant football coach killed protecting students in the Florida school shooting. The Stoneman Douglas Eagles wearing their jerseys honoring Aaron Feist as he's laid to rest. More than 1,000 people attending his funeral, paying respects to the heroic coach credited for saving countless lives. Feist laid on top of students, protecting them from the bullets. A woman saves a little girl within seconds of being kidnapped when her motherly instincts kick in. 12-year-old Amy Martinez in California when all of a sudden a stranger grabbed her from behind.
I was thinking that she might be crazy, and what if she takes me away and I won't see my mom or my dad again?
Witnessing the horrific scene, a Good Samaritan yelled that she was Amy's mom and called the police. Claudia Hernandez Diaz is behind bars on suspicion of kidnapping. Missouri Governor Eric Greitens blasting a prosecutor hours after a grand jury charged him with invasion of privacy. In a Facebook post, the governor writes in part, quote, "The people of Missouri deserve better than a reckless liberal prosecutor who uses her office to score political points." Greitens is accused of taking nude photos of a woman he was having an affair with without her consent. A Democratic candidate for Congress under fire for allegedly calling her opponent a crusty old Marine. Sarah Jacobs of California was asked about working with the military, given that her opponent is a vet. The exchange made on the campaign trail and later spelled out in Cosmopolitan magazine, quoting Jacobs as saying, quote, "It's true, I'm not a crusty old Marine." Jacobs apologized on Facebook, but said the remarks were not aimed at her opponent. Let's look at your headlines.
It may not be aimed at the opponent.
I happen
I'm
to
just the messenger.
just happen to be running against a Marine who's a little bit older, and I'm going to use that comment.
Right.
Not a good
She
idea.
and she could say it was a joke. It was
Right,
a joke.
but
She needs
not.
to hang out with that teacher who doesn't like the Marines.
Right.
That one in California.
And so she just won one vote. That's right. This is
She
San
won his
Diego,
vote.
California, full of Marines.
Absolutely.
Not a smart
Coronado, not far away.
Not well done. Good luck.
All right, coming up next, Pastor Robert Jeffress mourning the loss of his friend Billy Graham. Their connection runs so deep. Billy brought his mom actually to Christ. Up next, Pastor Jeffress is going to take us inside the life and legacy of Reverend Billy Graham.
Plus, Representatives Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, a core of the Freedom Caucus, along with Rick Perry, the secretary, all right here on Fox and Friends coming up.
In California when all of a sudden a stranger grabbed her from behind.
I was thinking that she might be crazy, and what if she takes me away and I won't see my mom or my dad again?
Witnessing the horrific scene, a Good Samaritan yelled that she was Amy's mom and called the police. Claudia Hernandez Diaz is behind bars on suspicion of kidnapping. Missouri Governor Eric Greitens blasting a prosecutor hours after a grand jury charged him with invasion of privacy. In a Facebook post, the governor writes in part, quote, "The people of Missouri deserve better than a reckless liberal prosecutor who uses her office to score political points." Greitens is accused of taking nude photos of a woman he was having an affair with without her consent. A Democratic candidate for Congress under fire for allegedly calling her opponent a crusty old Marine. Sarah Jacobs of California was asked about working with the military, given that her opponent is a vet. The exchange made on the campaign trail and later spelled out in Cosmopolitan magazine, quoting Jacobs as saying, quote, "It's true, I'm not a crusty old Marine." Jacobs apologized on Facebook, but said the remarks were not aimed at her opponent. Let's look at your headlines.
It may not be aimed at the opponent.
I happen
I'm just the messenger.
Just happen to be running against a Marine who's a little bit older, and I'm going to use that comment.
Right.
Not a good
She
idea.
and she could say it was a joke. It was a joke.
but
She needs
not.
to hang out with that teacher who doesn't like the Marines.
Right.
That one in California.
And so she just won one vote. That's right. This is
She
San
won his
Diego,
vote.
California, full of Marines.
Absolutely.
Not a smart
Coronado, not far away.
Not well done. Good luck.
All right, coming up next, Pastor Robert Jeffress mourning the loss of his friend Billy Graham. Their connection runs so deep. Billy brought his mom actually to Christ. Up next, Pastor Jeffress is going to take us inside the life and legacy of Reverend Billy Graham.
Plus, Representatives Mark Meadows and Jim Jordan, a core of the Freedom Caucus, along with Rick Perry, the secretary, all right here on Fox and Friends coming up.
Hey man, it's red.